Real estate has never been traditionally such an easy space to be. And that's what Office did when we started 9 years ago, is that it created transparency and ease. So today you want to sit out of an office, all you have to do is, like, on your way you can book a space. If you look at every aspect, whether it's from real estate, whether it is from a cultural standpoint, whether it is from a generational standpoint, or whether it is from a financial standpoint, co-working is something that seems like a no-brainer solution to me.
Hey there, welcome to Marketing Mavericks with Indiefolio. Today we have Sheetal Vanwari with us, who's the head of marketing at Awfis. Sheetal's career spans over 15 years, where she started with some very interesting agencies like Arc Worldwide and Web Chutney. And after being a creative director there, she has spent the last 8 to 9 years in real estate and very recently co-working. I'm excited to unpack her journey and learn a lot about selling co-working to India. Hey Sheetal, thanks for your time and welcome to the podcast.
Hi Kavan, thank you for having me.
It's a really rainy day and a lot of people are actually going back to their offices, out to their homes from their offices. So I'm still glad we could manage to do this. Excited to host you. The first question I want to ask, when is it that you decided that you want to pursue a career in marketing?
None of my career decisions were really something that I decided, oh, I'm going to pursue this. From childhood, I've wanted to do different things. So I wanted to be an astrophysicist. I wanted to be a teacher for a very long time, then journalist. However, I started with customer service. Then I moved to being a communication and behavioral trainer. If you realize, almost everything I do is with communication. And then I moved to advertising because I loved writing. I was there for quite some time. And in advertising, I grew as a marketer from the agency side. Instead of going back to advertising, I wanted to explore what it would be like to be part of a brand completely end to end, to be on the other side. So that's how marketing happened.
Was there like a moment in your career that you were like, hey, this seems fun and I want to double down on it? Or was it more like you were taking everything by the ear and it took you a few years to figure out, okay, maybe I'm passionate about this or I'm good at it? What was that like?
So I believe very strongly in having fun in what I do. So in every possible job that I've done, and even the customer service job, it's like I lasted 2 weeks, but yeah, I had a great time for 2 weeks. That was in the beginning of my career, but as a trainer, as a writer, and now as a marketer, it's always been like the core part of it. I really want to enjoy what I do and, feel that sense of not every day maybe, but overall that, hey, I've done something or made a difference, as cliched as it may sound.
You're the ideal person to ask this question. I often, see my friends who are in the earlier stages of their career, not entirely sure what they want to do long term. They've maybe studied something or maybe they've worked somewhere and now they are like, second guessing that. You said that you enjoy doing what you do, but you've also shifted domains and verticals, right? So what was going in your mind and how is it that you were confident that, okay, I want to pick this particular thing and stick with it?
So sticking with it, I'm not going to talk about, because as you can see, I didn't really stick to too many things. I'm going to quote Sunscreen, this song, where it says that some of the most interesting 20-year-olds don't know what they want to do. In fact, some of the most interesting 40-year-olds still don't know what they want to do. So if you're really interesting, maybe you will not know what you want to do. And what's the harm? You switch places, you switch till you find your place, and it's fine. If we've been told that a certain age, by a certain designation, by a certain point in your life, you need to know, but let me tell you, no one knows. And I have decades of experience now. I didn't know then and I don't know now. I might just, a couple of years down the line be like, okay, now this looks interesting. Let me get to that. If you have to look at even the fields, marketing, right? Where were we? We were on print and TV, and today we are on AI. The field itself has changed so much, so why shouldn't we, and why shouldn't our minds change along the way? So to your friends, if they were asked you should be like, yeah, jump right in. What's the worst that's going to happen? You won't like it? Move to something else.
I think brilliantly put, I second your advice here. One last thing here, right, is I'm sure a lot of folks who hear this It'll be like, where do you get this confidence, right? Because people are so afraid to fail that they just don't take these chances, right? They stick to routine, they stick to mundane because they're like, it's safe. So where is it that you get this confidence that you'd be able to switch quickly, right? Aren't you afraid to fail?
I think the confidence came with youth at one point. Right now, I'm not that confident because as you also grow in your career, you're a little wary. So I have to admit that, in my 20s, I was like, the world was my oyster. And if this doesn't work out or if this works out, I'll move here. But that kind of confidence, if, is not something that is maybe sometimes inherently there, but it's something that you can build because you're already not happy where you are. So what are you scared of, being happy or being, it's only going to get better.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I believe a lot of people overthink on what could go wrong, and you soon realize that nothing much, and you can easily start off from things very well. In fact, my father at 40 he changed his profession from being a doctor to a lawyer, and
Oh
that's why
wow.
I've had that in my house, and somehow I've always been super confident and not being afraid of changing streams. So yeah, I think you can do it anytime, and I fully second that. You started off your initial years in an agency, and I've had the pleasure to speak to a bunch of CMOs, head of marketings, and other leaders in marketing, and a lot of them also do the same thing. Do you have any opinions on what should a young marketer do today when it comes to their first few jobs? Is it beneficial to go to the agency route, or should they start from the brand side? What could be the pros and cons of both?
See, having done only one part of it, I can give you the pros of doing it. I don't know what it would be like not to. So I absolutely loved my agency stint. Loved it. I met some of the most awesome people, and you learn a lot because you work on a lot of brands. You really understand the intricacies of executing things. And, you know, I think the creativity in agencies rubs off on you. So you can't not be aware of a certain campaign because everyone's talking, it's all around you, so you're really enmeshed into that whole marketing and advertising world, like to the point that the other part of the world does not exist. Right now on my LinkedIn, most of the people are from advertising, right? So I see them dissect and dissect ads, and they have so much to talk about it. But my friends who are not from advertising, they don't even know these ads. So a lot of these ads are just missed. So I believe, yes, it's important to have that couple of years in an agency. One, because you also know, as a client, you feel the pain. So I am so much more, I hope I am so much more empathetic because I know that the person sitting over there is handling six other accounts. They've not slept, and the agency culture is crazy. And even if it's not a crazy agency and the culture is good, they're having fun and they're 25 and they should be allowed to do that. So I try to plan my life better and have expectations better on this side because I have background over there. Having said that, also including Awfis, a lot of us have moved creative in house to some extent. So you feel the pain anyway. A lot of companies are now doing that, so you
Right.
have like a blend of both on the marketing side. I don't know many marketing people who move to agency though. So yeah, I don't know why that does not happen. Maybe it's a little difficult to move from marketing to agency because then it's a culture shock to some extent.
Got it. Got it. I think the ability for you to also have a cross industry exposure very, very quickly is another thing to add to what you said, which really, really helps. And I think it's a great finishing school. As you said, if you want good intuition and also empathize with your partners eventually, you should start from the agency route. I think this brings me to another question, right? So when I open up my reels, I often get a lot of people saying that, especially younger ones, that if you switch your companies quickly, that's the sure shot way for you to grow in your career and get more salary. You've been in Office for 7 to 8 years. In fact, in this pod also, the leaders I speak to, they've been in their company for sometimes 20 years, 25 years. What do you have to say about this opinion being thrown around, right? Do you feel that it's wise for young folks to switch jobs so rapidly? And what are the pros to maybe stick to one particular company and see it evolve?
I'm a big believer in to each his own. I have been the job switcher also. Like
Okay.
I used to switch jobs every year because I was just, so agency was not my first stint. As I told you, I was in customer service and training. So I would switch. So there are no pros and cons as such. It's also dependent on what you want out of life and
Mm.
what you want out of your career. And sometimes it's also luck. I'm going to give a very random example, but you know how some people meet the person they want to spend their life with early on in life, right?
Mm.
And then they are in that steady relationship, get married, and they have that life which we are told is the ideal way to go about it, but it's not. Some people meet multiple people until they find someone they want to spend their life with. Some people don't meet anyone they want to spend their life with and continue, dating or having relationships with other people. It's all fine. It's whatever works for you. So my advice is not relevant for everyone, and similarly, anyone who tells you switch for money is not really always relevant. Sometimes you could get a lot more growing in the same organization. For me, I've completed 7 years in office because I maybe it's that time of life for me also. I have grown matured as a person, and I
Mm.
have to give credit to office, and I predominantly have to give credit to my boss because he's made sure that I evolve, I grow, I always have something challenging to do or whatever. There are multiple factors, but yeah, there is no one size fits all for sure. And don't listen to anyone, and definitely don't listen to anything that you see on reels are for fun, it's time pass, it's not life advice.
No, well put. So from what I understand, I think you could be there for 6 months or 6 years. It doesn't matter. I think as long as you said, you keep on doing something challenging, you keep on learning, and keep on growing. I think that is what you need to seek. If your current org, doesn't help you with that, I think it's time to switch. Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah, and is that what you want to do? What if you're
Right.
not looking for challenges? You just want to come, like they call it coffee badging. But if that is what you want to do, your organization, see, it's about meeting, right? It's about
Right.
finding the right fit. If your organization is okay with this, you're okay with this, and you're there, there's no reason to switch. If you think you could grow more aggressively, whether it's career, money, designation, whatever, and you want to switch and explore that, please go ahead. Sometimes, you want to switch because the commute is too long, but that's a relevant reason for the person who's doing it. So there's nothing wrong in it.
No, I love how self-aware you are about so many things, and I feel a lot of times people aren't self-aware. Did you feel that you weren't as self-aware as you are now, and if so, like what changed?
I'm in marketing. We can fake everything, right? So I don't know if I'm self aware. I just have an opinion on everything. And I'm glad to say this, but I changed my opinion also. You can have this podcast with me next month and I'll have something completely different to say. But that helps in marketing. You have to keep changing your opinion because, you could be very passionate about one part of it. And then, after a month, you're like, oh, okay, 1 second, that doesn't really work. So you have to be adaptable to be able to say, okay, that doesn't. Let's move to something else then.
Right, right. The reason I asked you is because there's so many signals for anybody today that this is what you should do, this is what you should do. If you don't do this, you're gonna die or whatever. And that's why instead of thinking, hey, what do I really want? As you said, what do you really want? They don't know only what they want. They just keep on chasing those signals. So I think it's so hard. I feel to be self-aware. There's so much noise. So I think the number one priority for anybody should be to really figure out, what they like, what they really want to do. And as you said, none of it is a good thing or a bad thing. Whatever you like is a good thing. So love
So can
love
I
that
just
advice.
add to that? See, the thing is that when you were talking about there's so much noise, but that noise is also sometimes we're not really enjoying what we do. We're told that you are supposed to enjoy it. For example, advertising was great for me, but maybe it isn't for someone, and you've been told, oh no, it's such a glamorous industry and it's such a fun place, but
Yeah.
you're not having fun, but you're told, no, this is fun. Similarly, I feel like a lot of influencers and travel influencers, it's like a dream job. and maybe they're not enjoying it, but they are like, oh, this is the thing to do at this point in life. So a lot of times the awareness is just that, are you really enjoying, or are you being told that this is the right way to enjoy, or this is the only way to enjoy?
Absolutely. I think now I want to jump a little bit more into the co-working market and office and talk more about that. We've seen some tremendous growth in the co-working segment. I think congratulations on being listed
Thank
as
you.
well.
The
The
first and
revenues,
only company in India to be listed, by the way, I must add.
that's incredible. Like that's a fantastic feat. I've been reading up on the financials, and it's like doubling year on year. I believe we've already crossed last year's revenues. If somewhere I read it on Tracker. So where is this growth coming from in India? I think what happened is so much hype was created because of this whole COVID new world, post COVID new world, and lot of funding was raised. And edtech is a famous example of those bets not working as well.
Mhm.
But it's clearly not the case in co-working. I think we all know all the players actually are doing pretty decently well, which means it's great for the market. So where is this growth coming from? And if you could paint a picture for everybody hearing, what is driving growth in the co-working space in the country?
So let me, give perspective from three angles. One is, if you have to look at COVID, and I'm going to, because you mentioned it, COVID kind of changed the way we thought of office altogether. As employees, it made us change the fact that, hey, I don't have to go every day, I don't have to go to a certain space for work to happen. On the other hand, a lot of people did not really enjoy working from home either, because of isolation, growth opportunities, no FaceTime, misunderstandings. So the whole hybrid culture took root at that point. So it was, in a way, a very momentous time for co-working, because this was the employee perspective. From an occupier perspective, from the company's perspective, what happened during this time was, they were paying, during the lockdown, they were paying a tremendous amount for spaces that they had taken, which were vacant, and they couldn't get out of the lease, because the lease tenures are very long. Lease tenures with flexible spaces are shorter. So, and you can downsize, you can upsize, so you have a lot of flexibility. So that was one, during COVID. Two is, the when you adopt co-working, you also realize there are a lot of benefits to it. So all the employee engagement, being able to network with other companies, having places to go to near your house, these things also came into the picture stronger after COVID. I mean, it was always there, it was building to it. COVID basically accelerated something that was eventually going to happen. We love to give that example of demonetization accelerated digital payments. That's what happened. See, eventually it was going to follow an arc and get there. And so that's one perspective. The second is, it also coincided with Gen Z entering the workforce. So now Gen Z, we love to talk about different generations and all that, and I have a totally different take on that too. But Gen Z is digital native. So they are very used to working even more than millennials, because they had, like, half their life of not having this much access, and social media was not so huge. But for Gen Z it is. And that conundrum that we were talking about, that this is what it's supposed to be like vis-a-vis what it really is like. So they are very clear in that sense, that the generation that comes in is very clear on what they want and what they don't want, in the kind of way they want to curate their life and showcase their life. The rest of the confusion stays with age, but that part they are clear. So flexible working and what it offers ties in very well with them, because it's a generation which is social more than digital, and that helps on flexible. The third part is the country as a whole. If you look at it, real estate has never been traditionally such an easy space to be. And that's what Office did when we started 9 years ago, is that it created transparency and ease. So today, you want to sit out of an office, all you have to do is, like, on your way you can book a space, look around you what is there and book. And our day passes, mobility, so which means just come for a day and sit, and anyone can. Those started around 199. It's better than going to a coffee shop.
Right.
Similarly, you have a meeting with a client, you don't necessarily have an office, and so you book a meeting room. Those start at 399. It sounds like I'm selling, but you see, what I'm trying to give is the perspective that now, to be able to do it, there's so much ease, there's so much access, there's so much value in what we provide. And not just us, other players too.
Mhm.
So the thing is that it changed the way work started happening and made everyone more productive, and that's what the country also needed. We have this whole history, we have this growth story and India shining moment that is happening, but it needed the infrastructure and support. Also, we have a lot of, like, without getting into the technicalities, and because this is more marketing driven, this, but the organized sector is much lesser than the unorganized sector in real estate. So co-working brings in a certain element of standardizing, building consistent experiences.
Mm.
So that is where it is growing, and the potential is so much. I can go on about this because the potential in terms of GCCs coming to India, the potential of tier 2 cities and everything that is planned for them. If you look at every aspect, whether it's from real estate, whether it is from a cultural standpoint, whether it is from a generational standpoint, or whether it is from a financial standpoint, co-working is something that seems like a no-brainer solution to me and to a lot of occupiers, to a lot of employees. So it's only going to grow, knock on wood. And you gave edtech as an example. My personal belief is that edtech got all the glamour and it got all the eyes, and it had crazy valuations. Co-working, on the other hand, was actual groundwork. Businesses are built on strong first principles, and that is why you see that you're talking about revenue, you're talking about profitability. We worked on that,
Mm.
and so it we were fortunate in a sense, when you look back, to not get the kind of glamour that was associated with valuations and everything. So you grew the business, and now we are like in 17 cities, we have 181 centers. This is for a
Wow.
company that's 9 years old only, out of which
Right.
3 years was COVID.
Right, right. That's no, that's a phenomenal growth, and I gave up my office in Lower Parel in COVID, and we never went back. And we constantly use these conference rooms, whenever a client wants to meet us. You mentioned GCCs. Now, traditionally, a big company is coming to India. They'd want their logo, they'd want their own culture and their own ways of things, on telling the employees also that this is the company and this is what we do, which usually means they want their own space, and there is almost some, how do emotional connection to it, right? So do you feel that that's changing though? Are founders and companies and executives okay now to have like a shared space? Any thoughts there? Have you tried to study the perception change?
I don't think there's a perception change.
Okay.
But the change is that we think of shared spaces and flexible spaces as different companies sitting together, and but there is a service that we also offer called managed office. So
Okay.
the GCCs and all, what they do is they are coming to India. All right, they want to set up a space. I can't name some of them, but let's say this is a live example. During COVID, we had to set up a center for a huge Fortune 500 company in Jaipur, right? So they wanted to move to tier 2 because of reverse migration of their employees. So the entire office, okay, the compliances, the sourcing, the design, the managing, all that we do. But if you look at the design, it's using the design brand ethos of the company.
Wow.
So, the thing is that just like when you're creating your home, you want your personality to come in. You have platforms which help you and you co design together. That's exactly what we do with our managed office spaces. We co design, we co create the space for them,
Mhm.
and that is a huge business for us. In fact, that's one of our fastest growing verticals because it's larger cohorts. And it really is very interesting because we have the expertise, we have a network, the pan India network to help us, we have local teams. So the ease with which they can do it by giving it just to one single person because of us is so much than if they had to really come in, deal with all that,
Hmm.
and deal with the management of the whole space. And we take care of everything for them, and it's their space. It reflects their personality, it reflects their brand. In fact, even the engagement that we have, everything, it is curated for them and for their employees, the kind of stuff that they would enjoy. So it's a fascinating space because you have so many angles to flexible working,
Yeah.
whereas our opinion of it is very, I'll go sit on a beanbag and work.
Right. Absolutely. I personally wasn't aware of this offering being there actually. Now, this makes me wonder, you have such a, I wouldn't say it's complex, but I also wouldn't say it's a basic set of products, right? You've got people coming in just for a day, just booking one conference room, maybe people building out their office entirely through a custom enterprise solution. So you're
Hmm,
selling to like freelancers, you're selling to SMEs, mid market, and enterprise. So as a
correct.
marketer, a lot of times people struggle with this, right? They're like, okay, how do I actually create a marketing mix which serves all these different opinions and different solutions? So anybody who's sitting on like a pretty decently complex product suite and ICPs, what's usually your advice on kind of planning out a marketing mix? And if you can take Office's example, I think that'll be really helpful.
Kevin, for Office, no, there's one more cohort, which is clients who sit with us. So we also engage them. We also curate partnerships, alliances, experiences for
Oh,
them. So it's literally from that one seat, absolute value customer who's coming in for a day, who's a freelancer, young person probably, to a meeting room client, to a shared space cabin, to a customized office space within a shared space, to a managed office space, to a space which is just design and build. And we also do facility management. So that is also one client. Now, you know why I'm here for 7 years. It's like seven different jobs happening simultaneously. The thing is that you don't need to know all seven, correct? I need to know all seven. You need to know, my job is that you should be aware, and as my TG, you need to know what is relevant to you and what are the benefits of the product that is relevant to you. So that's the way we work, which also helps us keep our spends really, really low because we are very clear on our targeting, we are very clear on our approach. So, for example, we use a D2C approach for our day pass and meeting rooms because it's our own product. We want to directly
okay.
reach out to the people. So, of course, we do all the things that a D2C brand would do, and the basics with email marketing, WhatsApp marketing. So so that's a more fun aspect of it. Influencer marketing again is for that audience more than it is for your design and build or managed office audience, right? Similarly, for the managed office and design build, the larger cohorts, we engage with them on a B2B space. So we co-create reports with IPCs. We also work on a lot of email marketing, a lot of relationship building, a lot of curated events for clients. We have small events that we host for a certain section of people. We do a lot of sponsorships in real estate events. So that is how we work with the B2B set, and this is how we work with the D2C set. And it's it's the same team that's working on it, but at the same time the approach is completely different.
Mhm.
For our in center, we have a completely different approach because they are our clients, they're sitting here. So we also understand. So there are which we curate, and then there are at a pan India level. So just to give you an example, if it's a festival, then we plan something pan India, and we'll have like Diwali celebrations or Christmas carnivals across, and then you have like a kit that you create, which so that it's also consistent. But at a local level, you might have like a cricket league works a lot in Bombay, whereas in Calcutta it will be football,
Mhm.
and in Bangalore it's cycling. We do a mix of everything, but the participation we see is a lot for certain sports, so we do that a lot more regularly. So there is a different thing happening, and then you also have new products which are coming in. I can't talk about something that's coming up, but now we have a completely new product which is coming in, so we're working on that, and then that audience will be completely different. So it's exciting because you get to, like, you start with a blank slate. Every new product we start with a blank slate, and all we have to go back on is the fact that our brand has a certain credibility, a certain name, but the rest of it is the audience and the marketing mix and the conversations we want to drive are different.
So this means that you must be having a pretty complex team structure as well. And I wanted to ask you that when you're hiring a marketer, Are you expecting this marketer to be versatile, that you should be able to do all kinds of these activities, be it thought leadership or performance or WhatsApp marketing? Or are you hiring experts, saying, I'm going to fill up an expert for each of these domains? What do you think is the usual preference you have?
I don't know about the others. For me, it's been a little mix of the two.
Okay.
So, for our digital marketing efforts, we have someone who has expertise in digital marketing, in
Mhm.
performance marketing and SEO and all that. So, because we want that person to have that technical expertise and to also upskill, right? Like, all of us are on the same page where AI is concerned. We all have the same right now start for it, right? From me to the junior most person in the team.
Right.
So for that, we look at niche. For similarly, PR is a very strong, vertical for us
Mhm.
because B2B, right? So for PR also, we have someone with absolute expertise in PR.
Hmm.
The teams that support have to do everything. I have designers who write, I have writers who design,
Nice.
and social media. I think if you're spending so much time on Insta and social, you you better know how to do social properly. A lot of ideation is not just marketing team. So
Hmm.
we have community teams which sit, right, the community managers. They're the ones who are in touch with their clients constantly, and they understand the audience, and it's beautiful. The ideas they come up with are amazing. So like, it's coming from anywhere where the idea bit of it is concerned. But overall, if you have to ask me, it doesn't matter if you're an expert or if you're a generalist. It matters that you're ready to learn, because you will have to keep doing it.
Great. I think that makes me ask you, learning is something which is obviously important, but how should one learn and how much time one should give to learning is always a big question mark. And I'd like to ask this to you, right? Because I could be wrong here, but I believe 7 years ago when you joined Office, you wouldn't know that you'll have to, sell to a Fortune 500 to set up their GCC. And their entire buying and marketing process must be so different. Maybe you've not even done it before ever in your career, right?
Correct.
So how do you learn quickly and how do you make sure that you've learned the right things and you've implemented that? Because people usually don't know, how should I learn something?
See, there are two learnings, right? There's one way to learn is you get trained, you have the luxury of time. So people go to B school, do all these things, they come to the real world and realize, hey, I'm not using any of that. That was theory. The second is you're in it. When you're in it and it's your job and it's your responsibility, how do you not learn? Like, do you have a choice? You can't be like, nah, this is not my
Right.
forte. I can't do this. You have to do it, right? So, and that will happen in any space today. Learning anything, like, I remember this is when in 2007, 2008, there was Facebook was just starting,
Mhm.
right? And a lot of mainline agencies and mainline people were like, oh, digital, you know brand work happens here, digital ko to aise de do. Where are they today? They've had to learn, right?
Absolutely.
And we've all had to learn. And in marketing and tech, the tech people are just not happy with marketing chilling. They make sure they are enhancing tech to the extent that you
Right.
have to. Today, my competition in marketing is not another marketer. My competition is that 20-year-old who's making such great content at times.
Right.
Correct? So, you have to learn. So, you have to learn to be 20, to think like a 20-year-old. You have to learn to be 40. You have to learn to be, you have to learn to let go of your perceptions of all these stereotypes also.
Mm.
Correct? So even while I'm saying 20 and 40, I'm not talking about the specific age, because again, I told you I have different views on going by a certain age, gender,
Right.
advertising, and so I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you have to be able to learn, and more importantly, unlearn and then learn new things.
Right.
So
Right.
that's the only way. It's not about growth, it's about survival where marketing is
Right.
concerned.
Right. Absolutely. Going back to the target markets, and you mentioned, I think you have over a dozen locations now, and co-working seems to be like a very metro focused thing, urban super urban populations. But if you're saying you've opened, or I think 17 spaces
It is.
now, does that mean that tier 2, tier 1, maybe even tier 3 are markets where they're seeing co-working becoming more and more common?
See, when we were the first people to enter tier 2,
Okay.
and this is back in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. So, you know, because we saw the potential. And today we are in 9 tier 1 and 8 tier 2 cities. So, and the growth in tier 2 is exponential. It will continue to be, while
Mhm.
tier 1 will have a stronghold. So, that will continue. But the tier 2 stories, again, very different. We
Mhm.
tend to think of tier 1 as one set and tier 2 as another set. But in tier 2, a Chandigarh and a Kochi are not similar. In tier 1, a Bangalore and a Delhi are not similar,
Right.
in any way. So you have to treat each city as a separate entity. More importantly, you have to treat each micro market as a separate entity,
Mhm.
because a BKC may have more in common with a golf course road than it will with a Vashi, correct?
Right.
So that's what I said earlier. You have to let go of those perceptions. And we all came in with that also. It's only when we started learning, we realized, okay, this is happening over here, this is happening over here, that this micro market is behaving more like a Whitefield is more like a Vashi for me than, Bombay markets are. Lower
Right.
Parel works on a completely different ball game altogether. You also learn to, and it's not always being correct. Like when we launched in Kochi, people did not know co-working at all.
Mhm.
So while we generally do not follow traditional media that much, we did outdoor in Kochi.
Right.
You have to build the category.
Mhm.
And digital wasn't the way to do it as such. Kochi also small community, so we had events which brought together people from different businesses. We had panel discussions. The launch was and very beautifully planned with the space owner and his network. So that's how it works differently. Like every city has a unique way that it functions.
Mhm.
And so I wouldn't break it down into tier 1, tier 2. I
Okay.
would break it down into different cities altogether and work differently on that. Even our performance marketing works the same way. And you also have to look at who's already there, who's planning to be there, and then plan your budgets and plan your marketing strategy accordingly.
Got
So
it.
I
I
again
think
have a great team doing all these things.
again, this the more I speak to you, the more complexities I understand in the entire marketing funnel for you. It seems easier said than done to say this customer set is different from this customer set, because when you are starting out, you're kind of clueless, and I feel a lot of marketers have not gone down to the road under them and talked to the people that are actually buying their products.
Hmm.
So how is it that okay, these two are similar or these two are not similar? Do you talk to customers? Do you analyze certain trends? If you could talk about how do you create this consumer intelligence, I'm curious.
I would like to give you a very complex answer and sound very profound. The truth of it is that our clients sit with us. I mean, they are literally. I
Fair.
am a client at Office also because I sit in our co working space.
Hmm.
You know, some of the things that I experience, I also realize that they're experiencing the same things. And at the end of the day, the workforce, there are few things that are common to everyone.
Mhm.
That is one part of it. The second part is, as I mentioned, that we have a lot of reports which come out. So we do a lot of surveys also with our
Mhm.
clients, and literally to the extent of what do you like eating and what do you like
Wow.
shopping. We have retail pop-ups. We have such a fun report coming out right now. I think by the time this podcast is out, it'll be out. So it's called Office Unwind, and it's fascinating. So we've gone drill down to, do people prefer coffee or chai? Do they prefer chips or chocolates? Who's shopping more? And yes, women are. But who is more likely to experiment with a small unknown brand vis-a-vis the known brand? Which generation prefers outdoor spaces and indoor spaces? It is great stuff, and it helps us. So it helps us. One is that we get to survey our clients. Two is we get to create these lovely reports which help us in marketing, because this report is not just for Office. It's a report which is for any occupier. It's for any space, anyone who wants to understand what is the human behavior within office spaces, right? What are they looking for? So
Mhm.
it's, as a leader in this space, that's also our duty to be able to, showcase what is really happening, and besides the fun content of it. And the other part of it is that it helps us not only design our spaces accordingly, but also market it correctly. So
Mhm.
that whole spectrum is, like, it's like closing the loop. Like, everything we do ties in with that bit. And I really envy, I feel, I mean, sorry, I really pity people who do not have access to their consumers as much. You're relying on an FGD where people are, lying most of the time. They're being paid to sit there. You're trying to actually concept test something because you want to prove it to your client as an agency. So that, but a lot of the D2C data changed the game because they had access to real life, live data and behavior. But that was data and not the person. For us, we have the data, and we are very fortunate to actually know the people. So when I'm traveling across cities or centers, I go and I'll sit, and I get such wonderful insights from just listening to cafe conversations. Elevator conversations will tell you everything. Like yesterday, I read this post on LinkedIn that people know the Panwala store has better insight into your office culture than the HR does. It is so true. And and that's what we get it from. So yeah, there's no rocket science to it. It's plain simple, sitting there and listening.
Incredible. I think you have a big advantage. I think having such proximity to your customers when they're experiencing your product is, I think, unbeatable. Because whenever you do end up even doing like a survey or a conversation, there is a lot of bias which gets into, and it's really hard to understand. And that's why observation is very crucial. And I was wondering, your is physical. So how do you track? And I think, yeah, it just made so much sense once you said that you just are with them. So that's why you're
Yeah.
able to, get that feedback loop so quickly. So I think if I were to conclude, it is, talk to your customer and be around them and observe them. I think that is what will give you the core insight as to, if your things are working or not and what you need to double down and improve upon. Coming to some marketing activities you've been doing, I had a look at your collaboration with Aya Shraddha. Absolutely love her. Absolutely love what you folks did there also. And you also spoke about the report you mentioned right now. You had collaborated with somebody, and I think it was a Gen Flex workspace report. I am assuming that's more for the more B2B enterprise level folks, or something along those lines. So how do you, so at the end of the day, a marketer has at your level has like a P&L job to do, right? As to how much ROI am I able to drive. So when you're at that stage where this is what you need to get to, and you have such complex product cycles and such activities you're doing. One is an influencer marketing for a certain category, one's a report for a certain category. How do you create a smart attribution engine, right? Like how do you know my dollars returning a positive ROI? Often some people say you can't do that for everything. Sometimes people say you can do that for everything. What's your take here, and how do you make sure that you are doing sustainable, profitable marketing practices?
Good question. See, everything that we are attributing, okay, is a flawed model, correct?
Okay.
Your TRP is a flawed model. Your digital is a flawed model. It's a better than TRP one, but it's a flawed model at the end of the day. So, as marketers, a lot of times the pressure is to prove that I'm doing the right thing. And this is imperative that we do it. And you can't even unprove that if I don't do it, this will happen. Because the cycle, say, I'll give you a classic example. If you do not do brand marketing, your performance marketing suffers. But the cycle that it does is longer. And you can't prove that it didn't, right? You can't afford to do all those things. So the I think what it comes down to, and unfortunately or fortunately, it comes down to also a trust system within the organization. So again, knock on wood, fortunate that my CEO, my deputy CEO, they understand the value of brand marketing. They understand that no one is going to read that report and be like, I will sit in office from now on, right? I mean, that's not the expectation. the it's very important, especially in a startup, that you have a very evolved leadership team, and we're fortunate to have that. So it's about striking that balance of, one, building the brand, two, getting the right return for the amount you're investing, and third is how much in are you getting with certain sections. Today, if I do, I'm without measuring it, like there are certain aspects of things that you measure share of voice in, PR. You will measure your marketing spends on digital, right? You measure on social, what are the impressions you get and everything. These are all metrics. The tying it to sale, exact science, no one's been able to crack, to my knowledge. Uh,
That's true.
So, but what happens with something like a report, okay? Like the Genflex report, let me give you an example. I got to work closely with a team that partners with us, all right? You have a close association automatically because you worked on that report. You have an event where you invite people, you get a chance to mingle with people,
Mm.
you get a chance to talk about the workforce, something that ties us all together, the occupier, the developer, and the operator, all three, right? What is it where you want to understand what people want, and this is what we are creating and sharing. So even if I have absolutely no sale with this, and if I can't tie it and there's no attribution to it, the mere fact that you've helped your industry, you've created a voice for yourself within that industry, is enough reason to be able to do it. We think of marketing in like sales, in terms of ROI and in terms of brand, right? They're not silos, and they do not always serve one singular purpose. Sometimes it may seem like they're not serving any purpose,
Mm.
but they are serving a larger purpose of helping you, have a voice. And these are the small things that help you have that voice.
Mhm.
So today, everything that we do, almost everything, some of them are trial and error also. There are things we try and they don't work out, and then we are like, or they don't, the effort does not justify. I told you earlier that we had started podcasts too. We want to talk to, people who are working. We want to have these podcasts, that the kind you're doing, but the kind of bandwidth, the kind of expertise you require, the kind of stuff, that it didn't work out for us at that point. I'm not saying
Right.
we'll never do it, but at that point it wasn't working. It wasn't working, not because it did not give us sales. It won't give us sales. It wasn't working in helping us bring out that voice in the most, I don't know, the best way possible. And
Yeah.
so
I get
that's
what
why
you
we
mean.
were like, till we figure out how we want to do it properly, we won't do it.
Understood. So I think it's incredibly hard and it remains to be incredibly hard. I believe it all comes down to the management and you yourself as a person. I think, as you said, if there is trust between them, it shouldn't, be a big hurdle. And year on year, you will come to know, where it's heading. So it's not like at the end of the day, that metric of ROI, you can calculate ki how much did I spend and what did I get out of it after a year is over. So yeah, completely agree with that too. We spoke about influencer collaborations, we spoke about reports, you spoke about a podcast, and a big struggle for a lot of marketers is to create this content production stack. As you very well said, there is a in-house creative team, people are building. Some companies continue to believe that no, I'm going to do it outsourced. I am not a company which can make a creative culture in-house. Some people are saying it's the end of retainers for agencies, and some people are like agencies were never more important with AI implementation, right around the corner. So what's your take with content creation? Do you believe a marketer should build this in-house? If not, when should they outsource?
It has to be a blend. There is, I was talking to someone just yesterday. I was like, so I was a creative director. So, when I joined in, it was automatically, I will think of the ideas and, be able to write and, be able to do social, those kind of things. But now that I've been here for so long, it's not that your creativity dips as such, but you're part of the system. So you can't really see an outside perspective, which I believe agencies bring in really well. A good
Mhm.
agency will also be able to, get in insights, and which you may not have seen because you're too close to it also. That's one part of it. Two, in terms of execution, building an in-house team at a creative supervisor level, I think, is great. But execution, unless you have a lot of money and big spends and all that, and having everything in house, that doesn't work. So we work with a network of freelancers also. We work with people who will create videos. We don't have in-house video creation tools, and so we work with agencies. Sometimes we work with boutique agencies at times on these things, you know but that's for us. It
Sure.
may be completely different for another brand. It
Sure.
may be completely different for, say, an FMCG vis-a-vis Zomato, Swiggy. Everyone has their own this. So there is, again, like careers, there is no one right, one size fits
Mhm.
all
Mhm.
answer to this. And will we ever completely give away creative outsource and not have it in house? I don't see that happening. With our business is also not such. And also in a B2B space, I think that agencies are not, most of the agencies that I'm aware of, and I'm doing disservice to a lot of them probably, but I don't think a lot of them are able to crack B2B as well as they do B2C.
Mhm.
So that is my other concern.
Absolutely. I think, B2B is such a big opportunity. And the fact that top colleges don't even cover it in their curriculum is so scary, because it's a bigger market. It's booming. India is going through a SaaS revolution, a B2B SME revolution, and
Correct.
everybody's just talking about consumer, consumer, consumer. So I think there is definitely a knowledge gap in the entire market only, and that's why you're saying what you're saying. But then, from what I understand, I think while it's each is to one's own, I believe speed and efficiency is where you can't beat in house, but maybe special projects or special skills is when you get external help. From what I understood from your answer.
So let me give you an example. A very non-traditional way that we work on social media. For the last 4 or 5 years, we have a small agency which works with us, and this one particular person. I work with only one person in that agency. Okay, he owns this, and he is almost part of the team. He knows as much about the brand. He's as involved in everything as the rest of my team is. Right?
Nice.
Like he literally is part of this office culture. So, in that sense, that team, that agency is quick,
Hmm.
makes sense. Internally, we have a lot of, as I mentioned, client engagement within our centers and all that. We have the design team that works in house for getting the mailers and in center branding and everything out. Our design and build vertical also as a product works the same way. We have a core in-house team, more than 150 people, designers and in projects, but they do work with local vendors too. So it's the same process. What I do believe is that I'm very old school, that there are certain, you need to find the right agency fit also, but
Mhm.
once you find it, you need to build on that. So our PR agency has been with us for the last 7 years. Yeah, 7 or 8 years, I don't know, but yeah, we've been together for the longest time except during IPO. But that's what I'm saying, that now that agency and us, we understand each other, so it's like a growing relationship, and then you have a lot more to offer. These days I see a lot of people go to creative agencies for projects, and therefore you have one great ad, but the brand, and I say that as a, maybe it's not for the consumers, but as a marketing person, I see that this ad was great in isolation, this ad was great in isolation, but they're not your brand at all. Like
Right.
I don't see value. But maybe I'm being short sighted, maybe this is the new world, maybe it's 15 seconders over the old world, we don't know. I'm open to being wrong, but this is what I observe.
Absolutely. I think that is happening. I think everybody is talking about it. It's not just you. And this is what will happen if the nature of jobs is that, I think Piyush Pandey said it very well that, retainers buy you my shower time. And that's how I'm able to actually think about your brand long term and able to build a cohesive strategy. A lot of, so we are Indie follows a network of agencies, studios, and independent consultants in creative, and a lot of them tune into this as well. So you just spoke a bunch of things, around partnering long term. In your experience, and also as somebody who's been on the agency side, what differentiates a great agency from a good agency, according to you?
See, all these agency awards and all that, you don't trust. But to me, a great agency, and this may again sound very, very strange, but a great agency is an agency that takes care of its people. So I'm ex Web Chutney. I There is a certain love that Chutney people have for each other, despite the fact that we've not been in Chutney for the last 10 years, I think.
Yeah.
And that culture is so strong that we are still together, we're networked, we're still in touch. And I believe that was the core reason that Chutney did such great work. They took care of their people, they stood by their people.
Right.
So, and that's quite rare. And the more I'm reading on LinkedIn about agencies, the more I feel that that's not happening anymore. So Talented,
Yeah.
PG's ex Chutney, so used to be in my team, and I keep reading what Talented is up to because I'm like personally invested a little bit in like what's he doing. And obviously I've not worked there, I don't know that, but the conversations are in the right vein. And I
Right.
feel that a lot of their work is so good, besides the fact that Gotham and PG are superb, but it's also because they're taking care of the employees, they're making the employees feel special. And when
Mhm.
you feel that, you bring in your best. So to me, that would be a clear differentiator for a great agency, is how you are with your people. And a good agency where you're not standing by your people as much as you should. Like, I want my agency to say no to me. So this social media person I'm telling you, he will directly tell me, no, you're not making sense, no, that's not going on, brand. Or you're like, because I tend to go overboard at times, so I'm like, no, you're going overboard. I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think what a unique answer. Not heard that before, and I think that's a feedback for all founders out there. You're in a chaotic world, but you have to try your best to take care of your people. That's where the work's gonna come out for, and you are your work as an agency, and it's not
Correct.
gonna matter otherwise. I know we've almost crossed our threshold. So the
I
last two
told you I
questions.
talk a lot.
Not at all. The last two questions which I have for you. We just spoke about content production, and as we were just discussing some time earlier in the chat, that AI is not emerging, but it's emerged now. It's here for us. And if I'm not wrong, I think you've spoken about this on LinkedIn, saying you're seeing a lot of mindless like regurgitation of templates happening. And I've also seen that, be it ChatGPT, be it Canva, be it a bunch of things. Things have started to look very similar, but it makes me wonder that's just now, right? Maybe the future is going to be very, very different. What's your take on this, right? Do you feel that with AI coming in, content production is going to get so revamped that a marketer will end up becoming the creative person as well, and maybe two people are the entire marketing team? Or is it going to be that, hey, you'd expect the creative people to do more, execute more, show more, and faster? Where do you think the world's going to go?
I have no idea. It could just go anywhere. And anyone who says that they have an idea don't have an idea. Like,
Right.
till last year, we did not even expect ChatGPT to be so good. I remember when I first started using it, I was up all night. I'm like, oh no, this cannot be happening because your emailer content, the basic content was so good, right?
Right.
Having said that, I think the post you're referring to is there's already so much bad content, but at least it's being created by people. I mean, at least there's effort in it. The last thing I want is the same. Don't make it. Don't do it only. Like, instead of doing, how is it effective? Even if those two people who are there in marketing do two things properly rather than doing 20 things on AI, which is not working. I'm not
Hmm.
anti it. So, in fact, one person in my team has an AI mandate that they have to update us on what's happening. We take marketing subscription to these things so that we use AI as much as possible for mundane tasks, for tasks
Mhm.
that you don't really always need to. But even in that, you and I could use AI and come up with different results because your thought process is different. And that's why the end result of it will keep improving. But the starting point is still you. And it is very, very important that you continue to have your own voice or your own thought, and then take the support of whatever, whether it's Canva, which I love, or whether it is ChatGPT, which I think is not doing as well as we expected. Like, there are other platforms which are doing better. So that's my take on AI, and very happy to eat my words few months down the line. But yeah. We don't know, but the
Absolutely.
tech people know. They know what they're doing. So you should ask them.
Absolutely. Very insightful. I think you said there's any which was so much mediocre content now. The guys who are producing mediocre content now, just without effort, are producing more of the same thing. I think didn't think of it from that point of view till now, and I think that's really true. I think that's a looming threat, to a lot of people and the whole marketing and content function. This brings me to my last question now, Sheetal. We've just reached that place now. You were awarded, I think, in reality, Woman Achiever Award, and congratulations, by the way, on that.
Thank you.
And a lot of people tuning in, a lot of women tuning in into this might be curious as a woman leader if you have any advice for them, and if you have any parting thoughts before you go as to what are anybody who's aspiring to build a career in marketing, like any top level advice you have for them to succeed.
My standard advice to everyone is do not listen to me. Okay. Like, really the wrong person to give advice. But my advice, I think, not just for women, I think I'm not going to divide it or specify for them. Overall, for anyone, you just have to be. Because when you're interesting, you are also interested in different things. This will sound very complicated, but you see, the most interesting people, think about the most interesting person you know. Like, let me give you an example of what you mentioned about your dad. I'm sure he's a very interesting person because he's interested in different things.
Right.
Only when you're interested in different things can you switch like that from a doctor to lawyers. You are interested in another field.
Right.
And those kind of people become interesting when you are, so geared to learn things, to be interested in different things. You create stuff which other people don't. And
Hmm.
as a marketing person, it doesn't matter which part of marketing you're in. Actually, everyone needs to be creative, but in marketing, you especially need to be creative. You need to think differently, think creatively. And trust me, it's so much fun when you do that. So stop taking yourself so seriously, like, I have to get somewhere, I have to do this, and I'm 30, so I must be there. No, you're there, so you must make the most of it. So that's my advice to everybody. And don't take my advice.
Fantastic, fantastic. No, love it, love it. I think I would say do take this advice. I second you as somebody who's also been around people and hired people and worked with people. You need to be curious. You need to be interesting. Don't follow the mundane script, which has been fed to you in your schooling system. Actually, the
Correct.
more you stay away from that, the more you'll get recognized. The more you'll be, you'll be taken seriously, and people will want to talk to you. So fantastic advice to end the podcast on. Sheetal, thank you so much for your time. I hope you had a good time.
I did. Otherwise, I would have made some excuse and left.
Thank God you didn't do that. And
No,
for
it was
everybody
great
who's,
talking to you.
thank you so much. And for everybody who's stuck along so far, thank you so much for tuning in. If you'd like to hear another leader in marketing like Sheetal soon, please like, share, and subscribe. We'll have another episode coming out very, very soon.